Hello everyone, thank you for coming back to my channel. Today, I'm bringing you the newest episode in the series about the story of Ly Hoai Ca and Hùng. In this episode, things start getting tense. Hoai Ca finally learns the truth. Hùng mother, the woman who once caused so much pain in their past, has returned. No warning, no preparation. She simply showed up right at the moment Hoai Ca thought her small family was finally finding peace again. So how will Hoai Ca react? Will she open her heart and give Hùng mother a chance to make things right? Or are the wounds from the past still too deep, pushing her 3 steps back? Everything will be revealed in today's episode. The fog was still draped over the mountainside, so thick it blurred the rows of trees behind the house. The early morning air was icy, sharp enough to seep straight into the skin. In that quiet stillness, the only sounds were the clucking of chickens and Hoai Ca's footsteps crunching against the cold ground. She bent down low, sliding her hands carefully into each section of the coop. The chill from the bamboo slats rose up and stung her fingertips, but her movements stayed gentle, almost as if she was afraid she might break the eggs just by touching them. Her breath mixed with the cold air, forming faint white clouds in front of her face. Today's eggs were surprisingly plentiful, so many that the small bamboo basket could barely hold them. Hoai Ca let out a soft sigh, her eyes slightly red from waking too early. So many eggs. If I bring these to Uncle Ha, he won't be able to finish them. I'll just save them to sell at the market. Still need money for medicine and Tony's school. She spoke quietly, like reminding herself to push a little harder. Her small figure in the pale fog looked both determined and heartbreaking. Nearby, Mama Ha was also crouching down, catching chickens to help. The weak yellow light from the coop lamp fell across her face, highlighting the wrinkles of a woman who had lived through too much hardship. Her hands trembled slightly from the cold, yet she kept her grip firm to make things easier for Hoai Ca. Every movement was slow but full of care, the kind of affection that doesn't need words. She glanced over at Hoai Ca. Seeing the girl bowed over, shoulders damp with fog, hands numb from the cold yet still pushing through, her heart softened. She managed only a gentle reminder. Slow down, child. It's freezing this early. Let me help. If you get sick, who's going to take care of Tony? Hoai Ca looked up and gave a faint smile, fragile, but trying to look strong. Yes, Mom. I'm used to it. The mountain wind is always like this in the mornings. A breeze slipped through the roof of the coop, lifting a few strands of hair on her forehead. The chickens flapped their wings noisily, their sounds mixing with the serene morning, so quiet you could almost hear the fog settling on the tin roof. The two continued working, each in their own corner, neither saying another word. Yet in that biting cold, a gentle sense of peace and familiarity wrapped around the small yard, like a habit they had shared for years. While working, Hoai Ca kept picking up each egg carefully, but her lips never stopped moving. She kept talking, as if her voice could chase away the heavy stillness of the early morning. Her soft, steady tone blended with the flapping of wings and the droplets of mist tapping on the tin roof. It felt like her words were the only human sound, and the mountains were quietly listening. Tony's been much better lately, Mom. She spoke as she pulled her hand out of the straw nest, lifting an egg toward the faint light. He listens to the teacher now, even sits still during therapy. A thin smile appeared on her lips, the kind of smile light enough to show joy, but fragile enough to reveal the worry hiding underneath. It flickered for a second like fog meeting sunlight, then disappeared. She placed the egg into the bamboo basket. Pieces of straw clung to her fingers, but she didn't bother brushing them off. Her gaze paused for a moment, drifting toward the empty yard ahead, nothing there but mist and stones. Yet in her mind, Tony's chubby little face appeared vividly. The teacher said, "I should limit seeing him." Hoai Ca swallowed, her voice suddenly small. She's afraid he'll cling to me too much and won't become independent. Her voice cracked thin and irregular, as if something inside her was squeezing tight. She forced herself to continue, sounding like she was trying to convince herself. It makes sense. Kids with delayed speech cling to their mothers a lot. It slows their progress. But the way her hand tightened around the basket's handle, and the way she bit her lip, made everything she said sound more like she was lying to her own heart. During the day, the worry was easier to bear. She drowned herself in chores, collecting eggs, feeding chickens, cooking, cleaning the coop, working non-stop until there was no space left in her mind for fear or sadness. But nighttime was a different story. Every time she thought about Tony sleeping alone in the therapy center, without her voice reading him stories, without the familiar scent of her clothes, without her hand pulling the blanket back over him, without being able to hug her whenever he startled awake, her chest tightened slowly, painfully, again and again. Some nights she didn't dare sleep, afraid Tony might be crying somewhere without his mother beside him. The ache for her child rose in waves, burning behind her eyes. She turned away, grabbing another basket just to hide the redness gathering there. Behind her, Mama Ha watched, knowing every word the girl spoke was true. And every word she tried to swallow back was even truer. Without saying anything, the older woman stepped closer, standing right beside Hoài Ca, as if to tell her that even on this icy mountainside, even while she was holding herself together against everything, she didn't have to stand alone. While gathering the loose straw in front of the coop, Hoài Ca kept her head down. Her hands moved quickly, but her heart felt unbearably heavy. The rustling of straw under her fingers blended with the distant clucking of chickens, creating a morning that felt peaceful, yet painfully tight in her chest. Tony remained the only thing occupying her mind. Her hands worked on their own, but her thoughts kept circling the same worries, and her eyes stayed fixed on the ground, as if letting any emotion slip through her gaze would make her burst into tears. Right then, Mama Ha slowly lowered herself to sit beside her. No loud sound, no sigh. But the careful, gentle way the older woman knelt down was enough to make Hoài Ca pause and turn her head. Her voice came quietly low, hesitant, the kind of voice adults use when they're about to bring up something difficult. Hoài Ca, there's something I need to tell you. Hoài Ca immediately looked up. She still held the basket of eggs in her hands, her palms trembling slightly from the cold and from the uneasiness. Seeing Mama Ha's face more serious than usual, she froze. Yes, Mom. What is it? Mama Ha took a deep breath, slow and steady, as if gathering courage into her chest. She looked down at the ground, then back at Hoài Ca. There was hesitation in her eyes, and sympathy. A few days ago, Hung's biological mother came looking for us. The words fell between them like a heavy stone. In the foggy morning air, the sentence landed so sharply that Hoài Ca went still for several seconds. No wind. No chicken sounds. Just a long silence, long enough that one could almost hear their own heartbeat. Mama Ha continued, her tone slow and deliberate. She said she regrets everything. She even bought back the old house. She wants to come back, apologize, and hopes Hung will forgive her. Hoài Ca felt like someone had reached into her chest and squeezed her heart. It skipped one beat, then thudded harder than before. Her hand tightened around the basket until the bamboo creaked. Inside her, emotions rushed up in a tangled mess. A little relief. A bit of hope for Hung. But above all, fear. The relief, because she knew Hung was a deeply emotional person beneath the tough exterior. The wound between him and his mother had lasted for years, turning into a thorn inside him every time family was mentioned. If this was true, if his mother genuinely felt remorse, maybe it was something he had longed for. But the fear, it arrived faster than any hope. Hoài Ca lowered her gaze, eyes shimmering but her voice steady. "Mom, I want Hung to be happy too, but..." She paused. Her throat tightened. She had to swallow before she could continue. "I'm scared it'll be all sweet on the surface, and hateful behind my back, like before." Those old memories, the cold stares, the cutting words, the misunderstandings, they had never really disappeared. She had only stuffed them away, buried them deep, pretending they no longer hurt. Her words slipped out lightly, like morning mist. Yet they carried a whole chapter of exhaustion and pain. The mountain fog, still wrapped around the two of them, cold enough to numb their shoulders. The sky remained pale and sunless. They sat side by side, yet each was drowning in their own worries. One for her son, one for her grandson, one for the fragile peace of their home. Neither spoke again. Only silence remained, in the small yard, in the cold mist, and in the unspoken fears neither of them knew how to voice. Mama Ha listened to Hoài Ca's words and simply nodded, her eyes softening. She understood everything, the slight tremble in Hoài Ca's voice, the way the girl avoided eye contact, the fear she was trying so hard to hide. Hoài Ca wasn't wrong. Someone who has been hurt finds it very hard to trust again. Mama Ha rested her hands on her knees and exhaled quietly. "I know. I don't blame you. We hope she's changed, hope things will get better, but we still have to be cautious." Her voice was low but firm. The firmness of someone who has lived long enough to witness affection, resentment, misunderstandings, and wounds repeating themselves in a family. Hoài Ca lowered her gaze, gently turning the handle of the egg basket between her fingers. "I want things to be peaceful too. It'd be good if Hung and his mother could reconcile. But we've already been through it once, Mom. It's hard to trust her right away. Two women, two generations, sharing the same cautiousness. No bitterness. No hatred. Just the instinctive guard of those who have been hurt before." The mountain mist circled around their feet like a thin white scarf. The early morning air was freezing, but between them was a quiet understanding, the kind that doesn't need words. Even though they still hoped the woman had truly changed, both told themselves, this time, they must be careful. They couldn't let anyone hurt their small family again. At the same moment, far away at the construction site, Hung was still crouching over the muddy ground, inspecting section after section of the road. The fog hadn't lifted yet, and a fine drizzle had started to fall. Rain seeped into the dirt, soaking his pant legs and chilling his skin. While jotting something in his notebook, he instinctively glanced toward the distant village, toward home. He imagined the low chicken coop, the muddy yard, the rain falling harder today. His brows furrowed. No one reminded him. No one hinted. But he already knew what he needed to do. He wiped the sweat mixed with rain from his forehead and called the excavator crew. "Head over to my place for a bit. Bring more sand and raise the coop floor. Make it neat so it won't stay wet." He hung up immediately. No explanation. No bragging. He'd always been this way. Quiet, genuine, always thinking of others before himself. Evening. After selling chickens at the market, Hoài Ca returned home with a tired shoulder and a bag of groceries. The moment she stepped into the yard, she noticed the coop floor was higher, the ground compacted, the sand spread cleanly. It was obvious who did it. Right then, Hung rode into the yard after finishing his shift. His shirt was covered in dust, hair damp with rain, shoes soaked, but the moment he saw her, his expression softened. Parking his bike, he said only one short sentence. "You're home." Hoài Ca nodded, noticing the dirt on his shoulder. "Yes, and you?" "Just finished." They didn't need more words. Just a look was enough. That night, they went to the kitchen together. A small, warm, familiar space. Hoài Ca cleaned and sliced the river fish she had bought fresh, golden-bellied, still smelling faintly of spring water. Hùng rinsed the vegetables from the backyard, the earthy scent still clinging to his fingers. The kitchen filled only with the sound of chopping, running water, and a few brief exchanges. "Did you add salt yet?" "Yeah, leave that pot for me." "Can you get me the bowl?" Not romantic lines. Not sweet talk. But the way they moved around each other, steady, quiet, in sync, was warmer than any love confession. When they finally set the food on the table, braised fish, boiled greens, a bowl of chili fish sauce, the meal looked simple, almost ordinary. But to them, it felt different. It felt full. It had been so long since they'd sat down together like this. A real husband and wife dinner, without rush, without tension, without distance. Just warm rice, the aroma of river fish. And two people who had weathered so many storms, now finally allowed to breathe a little. The whole room seemed to soften around them. During dinner, with the steam rising from the braised fish and the sound of rain tapping on the tin roof, Hùng picked up a piece of vegetable and said, "I asked for a few days off so I can stay with Tony at night." Hoài Ca looked up, her eyes immediately brightening. The exhaustion of the whole day seemed to fade by half. "Really on? Then Tony won't feel so lonely at night. Having his father there makes a big difference." Her voice was soft, but warm, the warmth of a mother who worries about her child in every small detail. Hùng looked at her and gave a gentle, sincere smile. "Yeah, as long as our son has someone beside him, that's good. And Tony's improving. His teacher says he's more willing to communicate now." Hearing that, Hoài Ca lowered her gaze to her bowl, her lips forming a tender smile. "That's all I need to feel at ease." The little kitchen felt brighter somehow, even though the light was dim and yellow. The feeling of family was so clear it could be heard with the heart. After finishing the meal, Hùng stood up to wash his hands, and the two of them walked together to the backyard. The rain had stopped, and fog was starting to settle around the porch. The chicken coop Hùng had just raised with sand looked much drier and sturdier. The sand was still fresh, its bright yellow color standing out against the damp ground. Hoài Ca stood with her arms crossed, staring for a long moment. "You did it so neatly. The chickens won't get sick as easily now." Hùng replied simply, "Just wanted to make it clean so you won't have such a hard time." No sweet words. No showing off. Yet those words felt warmer than the jacket she was wearing. She bent down and stepped on the sand to test it. "The foundation's solid now. Should we build another coop too?" Hùng nodded. "Yeah, raise another few dozen. If the chickens sell well, we can save up for Tony's schooling." They stood side by side, talking about chickens, about the coop, about market prices, about therapy fees. Just small things. But in their eyes, not small at all. Because it wasn't just about chickens. Not just about sand. It was about the future. About Tony's education. About the home they were building piece by piece, with their own hands. In the foggy backyard, the two of them stood together, looking at the coop and talking about things simple, yet incredibly important. Slow, quiet, steady, and genuine, just like the way they love, and the way they fight for this little family. That night, Hoài Ca and Hùng sat side by side at the small wooden table, worn smooth by the years. Most of the dishes were empty, only one last piece of fish remained on the plate, still carrying the rich aroma of the caramelized sauce. Hoài Ca picked up the piece of fish, intending to put it into Hung's bowl. At the same moment, Hùng lifted his chopsticks to place it into hers. Their chopsticks touched with a soft click. Hoài Ca let out a small laugh. Hùng, too, smiled, a rare, gentle, genuine smile that made the little kitchen feel brighter. Outside, mountain rain fell steadily onto the leaf roof. The sound was soft, rhythmic, like someone tapping a lullaby for the whole house. Now and then, a gust of wind slipped through the cracks, carrying the familiar scent of wet earth and cold mountain air. They sat there for a few seconds without speaking, just looking at each other. Looking at Hoài Ca's tired but peaceful eyes. Looking at Hung's strong shoulders, weighed down with worry yet steady as ever. Then they looked around their small home, where everything was simple. The old table, the little stove, the dusty sandals by the door. But the warmth inside was clearer than any summer sun. Finally, they looked toward the future. Not with words, but with the quiet way their eyes met. A future that would still be difficult. Still full of responsibilities. Still uncertain in many ways. But it was warming up slowly, steadily. Like a small fire burning in the night. Not blazing bright. Not lighting up the whole mountain. But warm enough, steady enough. To keep a family from growing cold. And on that rainy night, Hoài Ca and Hung understood. As long as they could sit beside each other like this, everything would eventually fall into place. The night passed slowly, mountain rain still tapping softly against the leaf roof. Inside that small house, the two of them sat side by side, silent yet warm, tired yet at peace. The hardships weren't over. The road ahead was still long. But tonight, they had found a little bit of calm to lean on. Where will Hoài Ca and Hung's life turn next? Will this small flame continue to keep their family warm? See you in the next episode, coming out tomorrow. Don't forget to leave a comment and share your thoughts with me.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Mình đang làm video thì cũng sắp xong rồi mọi người ơi. Bây giờ thì mình sẽ đăng tải video lên cho mọi người. Mình còn phần quay đuôi này nữa. Cảm ơn mọi người đã theo dõi video của mình. Bye bye. Hẹn gặp lại mọi người trong những video tiếp theo. Tạm biệt.